I think life on Earth must be about more than just solving problems. It's got to be something inspiring, even if it is vicarious. I wouldn't say I have a lack of fear. In fact, I'd like my fear emotion to be less because it's very distracting and fries my nervous system. My vision is for a fully reusable rocket transport system between Earth and Mars that is able to refuel on Mars. This is very important, so you don't have to carry the return fuel when you go there. The key to making things affordable is design and technology improvements, as well as scale. Nobody wants to buy a $60,000 electric Civic, but people will pay $90,000 for an electric sports car. I usually describe myself as an engineer. That's basically what I've been doing since I was a kid. Tesla is becoming a real car company. Winning Motor Trend Car of the Year is probably the closest thing to winning the Oscar or Emmy of the car industry. The U.S. automotive industry has been selling cars the same way for over 100 years, and there are many laws in place to govern exactly how that is to be accomplished. A Prius is not a true hybrid, really. The current Prius is, like, 2% electric. It's a gasoline car with slightly better mileage. From an evolutionary standpoint, human consciousness has not been around very long. A little light just went on after 4.5 billion years. How often does that happen? Maybe it is quite rare. I think the high-tech industry is used to developing new things very quickly. It's the Silicon Valley way of doing business. You either move very quickly and you work hard to improve your product technology, or you get destroyed by some other company. I had so many people try to talk me out of starting a rocket company, it was crazy. The problem with car dealerships is you've already decided what you want to buy before you even go there, and you're really just going there to talk through some annoying negotiation. In the case of Apple, they did originally do production internally, but then along came unbelievably good outsourced manufacturing from companies like Foxconn. We don't have that in the rocket business. There's no Foxconn in the rocket business. There are really two things that have to occur in order for a new technology to be affordable to the mass market. One is you need economies of scale. The other is you need to iterate on the design. You need to go through a few versions. Trying to read our DNA is like trying to understand software code, with only 90% of the code riddled with errors. It's very difficult in that case to understand and predict what that software code is going to do. Even if producing CO2 was good for the environment, given that we're going to run out of hydrocarbons, we need to find some sustainable means of operating. Man has the power to act as his own destroyer, and that is the way he has acted through most of his history. The space shuttle was often used as an example of why you shouldn't even attempt to make something reusable. But one failed experiment does not invalidate the greater goal. If that was the case, we'd never have had the light bulb. Silicon Valley has some of the smartest engineers and technology business people in the world. It would take 6 months to get to Mars if you go there slowly, with optimal energy cost. Then it would take 18 months for the planets to realign. Then it would take 6 months to get back, though I can see getting the travel time down to 3 months pretty quickly if America has the will. A battery by definition is a collection of cells. So the cell is a little can of chemicals. And the challenge is taking a very high energy cell, and a large number of them, and combining them safely into a large battery. If we could do high-speed rail in California just half a notch above what they've done on the Shanghai line in China, and if we had a straight path from LA to San Francisco, as well as the Milk Run, at least that would be progress. It's obviously tricky to convert cellulose to a useful biofuel. I think actually the most efficient way to use cellulose is to burn it in a cogeneration power plant. That will yield the most energy, and that is something you can do today. A utility can handle up to 20% of production from solar, and that helps the grid because it produces electricity when needed. Solar power peaks in the middle of the day, and that's also when air conditioning is running and businesses are operating, so power production matches usage. I just want to retire before I go senile, because if I don't retire before I go senile, then I'll do more damage than good at that point. Silicon Valley has evolved a critical mass of engineers and venture capitalists, and all the support structure, the law firms, the real estate, all that are all actually geared toward being accepting of startups. It's not as though we can keep burning coal in our power plants. Coal is a finite resource, too. We must find alternatives, and it's a better idea to find alternatives sooner than wait until we run out of coal, and in the meantime, put God knows how many trillions of tons of CO2 that used to be buried underground into the atmosphere. There are some important differences between me and Tony Stark. Like, I have 5 kids, so I spend more time going to Disneyland than parties. We polled Tesla owners, do you want autopilot disabled or not? Not one person wanted it disabled. That's pretty telling. Here in the West, people often don't like listening to their leaders, even if they are right. I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I just think people from Silicon Valley can do anything. Physics is really figuring out how to discover new things that are counterintuitive, like quantum mechanics. It's really counterintuitive. America is the spirit of human exploration distilled. I'm anti-tax, but I'm pro-carbon tax. If you look at space companies, they've failed either because they've had a technical solution where success was not a possible outcome, they were unable to attract a critical mass of talent, or they just ran out of money. The finish line is usually a lot further away than you think. Boeing just took $20 billion and 10 years to improve the efficiency of their planes by 10%. That's pretty lame. I have a design in mind for a vertical liftoff supersonic jet that would be a really big improvement. If you had to buy a new plane every time you flew somewhere, it would be incredibly expensive. I think a lot of the American people feel more than a little disappointed that the high water mark for human exploration was 1969. The dream of human space travel has almost died for a lot of people. I do think there is a lot of potential if you have a compelling product and people are willing to pay a premium for that. I think that is what Apple has shown. You can buy a much cheaper cell phone or laptop, but Apple's product is so much better than the alternative, and people are willing to pay that premium. So we originally expected to make about 35 gigawatt-hours at the cell level and about 50 gigawatt-hours at the module or pack level. Now we are expecting to do about 150 gigawatt-hours in the same volumetric space as the original design. You need to live in a dome initially, but over time you could terraform Mars to look like Earth and eventually walk around outside without anything on. So it's a fixer-upper of a planet. I'm trying to construct a world that maximizes the probability that SpaceX continues its mission without me. I wish we could be private with Tesla. It actually makes us less efficient to be a public company. The pace of progress on Mars depends upon the pace of progress of SpaceX. I think whenever there's something that affects the public good, then there does need to be some form of public oversight. The fuel cell is just a fundamentally inferior way of delivering electrical energy to an electric motor than batteries. I'm reasonably optimistic about the future, especially the future of the United States, for the century, at least. There have only been about a half-dozen genuinely important events in the 4-billion-year saga of life on Earth: single-celled life, multi-celled life, differentiation into plants and animals, movement of animals from water to land, and the advent of mammals and consciousness. I would like to fly in space. Absolutely. That would be cool. I used to just do personally risky things, but now I've got kids and responsibilities, so I can't be my own test pilot. That wouldn't be a good idea, but I definitely want to fly as soon as it's a sensible thing to do. I've been to Disneyland, like, 10 times. I'm getting really tired of Disneyland. In order to have your voice be heard in Washington, you have to make some little contribution. There's nothing. I've bought everything I want. I don't like yachts or anything. You know, I'm not a yacht person, and I've got pretty much the nicest plane I'd want to have. What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight, and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone. The reason we should do a carbon tax is because it's the right thing to do. It's economics 101, elementary stuff. What most people know but don't realize they know is that the world is almost entirely solar-powered already. If the sun wasn't there, we'd be a frozen ice ball at 3 degrees Kelvin, and the sun powers the entire system of precipitation. The whole ecosystem is solar-powered. SpaceX is only 12 years old now. Between now and 2040, the company's lifespan will have tripled. If we have linear improvement in technology, as opposed to logarithmic, then we should have a significant base on Mars, perhaps with thousands or tens of thousands of people. Generally, the view that I've had on Twitter is if you're on Twitter, you're in, like, the meme. You're in meme warland. If you're on Twitter, you're in the arena. And so, essentially, if you attack me, it is therefore okay for me to attack back. If anyone has a vested interest in space solar power, it would have to be me. I feel very strongly that SpaceX would not have been able to get started, nor would we have made the progress that we have, without the help of NASA. My background educationally is physics and economics, and I grew up in sort of an engineering environment. My father is an electromechanical engineer. And so there were lots of engineering things around me. SpaceX has the potential of saving the U.S. government $1 billion a year. We are opposed to creating an entrenched monopoly with no realistic means for anyone to compete. Land on Mars, a round-trip ticket, $500,000. It can be done. Obviously, Tesla is about helping solve the consumption of energy in a sustainable manner, but you need the production of energy in a sustainable manner. Automotive franchise laws were put in place decades ago to prevent a manufacturer from unfairly opening stores in direct competition with an existing franchise dealer that had already invested time, money and effort to open and promote their business. We are the first species capable of self-annihilation. If you look at our current technology level, something strange has to happen to civilizations, and I mean strange in a bad way. And it could be that there are a whole lot of dead, one-planet civilizations. There's no better place in the world for technology startups than Silicon Valley. There's such an incredible well of talent and capital and resources. The whole system is set up to foster the creation of new companies. For all the supporters of Tesla over the years, and it's been several years now and there have been some very tough times, I'd just like to say thank you very much. I deeply appreciate the support, particularly through the darkest times. I think long-term you can see Tesla establishing factories in Europe, in other parts of the US, and in Asia. Facebook is quite entrenched and has a network effect. It's hard to break into a network once it's formed. It's important that we attempt to extend life beyond Earth now. It is the first time in the 4 billion year history of Earth that it's been possible. And that window could be open for a long time. Hopefully it is. Or it could be open for a short time. We should err on the side of caution and do something now. I think most of the important stuff on the internet has been built. There will be continued innovation, for sure, but the great problems of the internet have essentially been solved. I have made the mistaken assumption, and I will attempt to be better at this, of thinking that because somebody is on Twitter and is attacking me that it is open season. And that is my mistake. It is true that SpaceX is partially a government contractor, but it would be unfair to say that SpaceX is entirely a government contractor. The rumors of the demise of the US manufacturing industry are greatly exaggerated. I hate writing about personal stuff. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't use my Twitter account. I am familiar with both, but I don't use them.